I wanted to surprise my family, so I paid for an entire vacation for all of us to enjoy together. But behind my back, my sister tried to exclude me from the trip, as if I didn't belong. When I found out, I was furious and canceled her ticket instead. We went without her. Now she's homeless and begging our parents to take her back. But honestly, she brought this all on herself. I paid for a family vacation, and my sister decided I shouldn't be part of it. A surprise I planned for everyone, without me. The message popped up 24 hours before our flight. Your flight has been canceled by account holder request. It was my account, but I hadn't touched it. My stomach dropped. Maybe a glitch, maybe some error. Number. It wasn't a mistake. Deep down, I knew exactly who did it. And the first thing I felt wasn't rage. It was hollow betrayal. I paid for this entire thing, and they voted me off the island. My name's Thomas. I'm 31. I've always thought of myself as the peacekeeper in the family. I grew up in one of those nice homes where conflict was avoided, and keeping the peace usually meant bite your tongue and let it go. My parents are kind but spineless when it comes to discipline. My older brother Joe is my guy. Funny, grounded, real. And then there's my little sister, Candy. Nature gave her the worst combination imaginable. She was spoiled and charismatic. From the moment she was born, Candy was untouchable. If she cried, someone else must have made her sad. If she lied, it was just her imagination. If she manipulated someone, it was her artistic nature. Meanwhile, Joe and I were expected to be the mature ones. Her tantrums. She's sensitive. Our complaints? You boys are being aggressive. We learned to play background noise early. And for a long time, I convinced myself I was okay with it. When I got a massive bonus at work, my first thought wasn't a new car or personal getaway. I wanted to give something to the family. My parents' anniversary was coming up, and the idea hit me like lightning, a trip to Maui. That's where they had their honeymoon a lifetime ago. I thought bringing them back, now with their adult kids, would mean something. I thought it would mean everything. I planned it all silently. Flights, resort, excursions, dinners, even a private sunset cruise with live music. I covered every cent myself. When I broke the news, my mom teared up. My dad hugged me like he hadn't in years. Joe slapped my back and laughed. You're insane, but this is incredible. And Candy, she smiled. Whether it was genuine or not, I'll never know. She acted excited, started picking outfits, talking about the videos she'd filmed for Instagram. I cringed, but I let it go. I wanted this trip to bring us together. I thought maybe, just maybe, it would be a turning point. It wasn't. She started by demanding the itinerary. I had wanted to surprise everyone, but I caved. Just a look, she said. Within a day, she was rewriting it, canceling activities I'd booked, swapping in her choices, posting in the family group chat like she was the official organizer. I texted her to back off. This is my gift. Please don't interfere. She read it, didn't reply, then posted more updates like nothing had happened. I should have seen it coming, but I chose peace. I figured, let her feel involved. I just want this to go well. I held out until that cancellation notice hit my phone. I called. She answered like it was nothing. Oh, you really didn't know? Huh, that's funny. Then calm as anything. You're kind of controlling, Thomas. You'd ruin the vibe. We all agreed it's better if you sit this one out. I didn't argue. I ended the call, logged in, and canceled her ticket. I didn't say a word. Not to my parents, not to my brother. I just logged into the account, canceled her ticket, changed the password, and shut the laptop. My heart was pounding, but my mind was eerily clear. I wasn't going to explain or justify myself. Not this time. 10 minutes later, the storm hit. My phone lit up with notifications. First, a message from Joe. What the hell? Bonnie said you kicked her off the trip. Then came a text from Mom. Then Dad. Then Bonnie. She called, texted, sent voice messages. First she mocked, then pleaded, then insulted. The usual cycle. I didn't answer. I opened a beer, sat on the couch, and turned on an old sitcom that usually helped me unwind. Nothing worked. The screen flickered. The actors bantered. But all I could think was, they tried to erase me from my own trip, the one I paid for. When Joe realized I wasn't going to argue, he called. He was calm, no accusations. Just asked if it was true Bonnie had canceled my ticket. I said yes. Silence. Then he said, damn, I thought she was just exaggerating. I didn't know she was serious. I said nothing. No words came. Joe sighed. Well, fair enough. The first flicker of understanding in the dark. Half an hour later, Dad called. His tone was sharper. He asked why I did something so cruel. I reminded him Bonnie canceled my ticket first. He said he didn't know that. She told him I had decided not to come. I held it in. I didn't want to fight. I calmly explained, I paid for the trip. I planned everything. It was meant as a gift, and I was excluded, without warning, without a word. Pause. Then he said, she said you're too controlling. That you'd ruin the fun. I exhaled quietly. There it was, the root of it. If you don't let Bonnie do things her way, you're toxic, controlling, selfish. If you back off, she walks all over you. And for years, they just let it happen. I ended the call simply. If you all want to go with her, go ahead. I'll cancel the rest of the tickets. I'll go alone. He didn't respond, just hung up. Then the second wave started. Bonnie. She shifted from sarcasm to full-on rage. Said I ruined everything, that I was a narcissist, that I just wanted to look noble, that I was manipulating them. Everything, except admitting what she did was wrong. I took screenshots, sent them to my parents. Let them see, let them read, let them decide who was actually ruining the trip. And then something strange happened. Mom messaged, I had no idea she said these things. I'm so sorry. Then she called. Her voice was quiet. She said she didn't support Bonnie's behavior. Asked if maybe we could fix things. Maybe I'd buy her another ticket if Bonnie apologized. I laughed, not mean, just bitter. They actually thought Bonnie would apologize just to get back on the trip I paid for? I knew exactly how it would go. 10 seconds of fake sorry, a plastic smile, and another knife in my back the moment she had the chance. But out of curiosity, I agreed. We set up a conference call. Mom, Dad, me, and Bonnie. You need to apologize, Dad said. Her answer came fast. Screw him. I did the right thing. He would have ruined everything. Let him suffer. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. For the first time in my life, my dad didn't take her side. He just ended the call. I didn't expect to relax after all the chaos, but as soon as we landed, the sun in Honolulu seemed to melt some of the bitterness I'd been carrying. My parents were trying to stay composed, though it was obvious this wasn't easy for them. My brother, on the other hand, was thrilled. His energy was infectious, dragging us out to the beach, to surfing lessons, through souvenir stands like movement alone could drown out the awkwardness. I didn't complain. Moving meant not thinking. The first 2 days were packed, snorkeling, kayaking, trying out new foods. Even Mom smiled more than usual. Only in the evenings when she stared at the sunset, that heaviness would creep into her eyes, like something was missing. I knew what, or rather, who, and I hated myself a little for not feeling guilt. I wanted to, but it just wasn't there, and maybe that was my breakthrough. Then the messages from Haley started. She didn't stick to teary monologues. Sometimes it was profanity-laced rants. Other times it was dramatic quotes like, "You'll regret pushing me away." One moment she claimed she was crashing on a friend's floor, and the next she was posting party pics, cocktail in hand. She couldn't decide whether to play the victim or the influencer. But the messages aimed at me? Pure poison. I ignored the first dozen. Then I just muted the thread. My dad tried calling her. Every time it ended in screaming. Then she messaged my brother. Not to apologize, but with an idea. A brilliant one, according to her. Haley suggested they rebalance things by planning a separate vacation for our parents. Without me. You know, to be fair, she even outlined the costs and promised she'd pay him back. Eventually. To his credit, my brother stayed calm. He just forwarded me the screenshots with a simple note. Now you get why I didn't talk to her for 3 months before this trip. On day 4, Mom gave in and called her. The call was short. Mom, clearly emotional, offered for Haley to come over after the trip, to talk, to try and fix things. But Haley wasn't having it. She unloaded again, accusing them of choosing the wrong kid, calling me a manipulative freak. She said she wouldn't come. And then her final words, "Someday you'll crawl back to me, and then it'll be too late." When Mom hung up, the silence was heavy. We sat on the balcony with coconut water in our hands, the ocean stretching out in front of us. But it felt like the silence was louder than the waves. I exhaled. Want me to buy her a separate ticket? Just for her. No one else. Mom shook her head. It's too late, she said quietly. We let her be special all her life, and now she hates us for not putting her back on a pedestal. On the 5th day, my brother suggested a helicopter tour of the islands. My parents hesitated. It was expensive, intimidating. We're too old. But eventually they agreed. Best decision of the trip. The wind, the roar of the blades, the green jungle sprawling below us. It pulled us into something bigger than ourselves. I looked down and thought, maybe this wasn't all for nothing. Maybe things will heal. Not with her, but with us. When the plane took off, I didn't feel relief. Instead of excitement, there was a tightness in my chest, like someone had pressed an invisible panic button inside me. I stared out the window, but all I could see was Bonnie's face when she said, "You're not worth ruining our vacation." Her words clung to my thoughts like a splinter, small but painfully sharp. I kept replaying her voice, her tone, her expression. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disappointment. It was contempt. And somehow that hurt the most. Next to me, my brother was chatting nonstop. He was trying to keep things light, talking about our plans on the islands, joking about diving and making group selfies. I smiled automatically. He needed to believe everything was fine, that now without Bonnie, the trip was back on track. But inside me, something was unraveling. At the hotel, we were greeted with flower leis and welcome drinks. My parents arrived a little later, looking tired but trying to stay composed. We hugged, mechanically, like a scene we'd rehearsed. Dad attempted a joke. Mom said everything would be okay. I nodded, helped with their luggage, put on my best polite smile. That smile, though, felt like a mask made of cardboard, cracking at the edges. The first day passed uneventfully. We walked along the beach, snapped a few pictures, had dinner in a cozy little restaurant. The conversations were almost normal. Almost. Every time the topic veered close to anything family, we all instinctively paused. No one said her name. It was like she'd never existed. On the second day, it began, message after message. I'd silenced my notifications, but during quiet moments, I peeked. Long paragraphs, blame, guilt trips, accusations. First, you ruined everything. Then, aren't you ashamed? Then, everyone secretly hates you. Eventually, I hope bad things happen to all of you. I didn't even open the last one. I just deleted it. My parents tried to maintain distance too, but I could tell. Mom was struggling. Her eyes always drifted toward her phone. When Bonnie finally called, Mom stepped outside to answer. She talked quietly and stared out at the ocean for a long time after. I didn't ask what was said. She didn't offer. But the next morning at breakfast, she whispered, "She thinks we betrayed her." I nodded. What else was there to say? On the fourth day, something unexpected happened. We went on a boat tour to see the waterfalls. Everything was picture perfect. Sunshine, breeze, a sparkling water. And then my brother joked, "Can you imagine if Bonnie were here right now?" I snapped my head around. Too fast. He instantly realized he'd touched a nerve. I got up, walked to the back of the boat, and sat alone. And there, near the edge, it hit me. I wasn't angry. I was tired. Tired of being the good guy. Tired of holding it all together. Tired of explaining, justifying, proving. This trip, my attempt to unite us, had become a reminder that some family ties can't be fixed with sunshine. Some rot from the inside, even in paradise. Back at the hotel, the first thing I did was pull out my phone and block Bonnie's number. Not out of rage, not out of revenge, just silence. It was my choice. Not because I didn't love her, but because, for the first time in a long time, I chose to love myself. The room was quiet. The sea murmured beyond the window as if trying to soothe me, but something still scratched at me from the inside. It was the fifth day of our vacation, and it began with a heavy pause. I woke up earlier than anyone, stepped out onto the balcony, and watched the light roll over the water. It was beautiful, but empty. For the first time since we arrived, I had no desire to wake anyone up, go anywhere, or plan anything. I just sat in silence, and in that silence, it hit me. I wasn't tired of the conflict. I was tired of always caring more than I should. A strange thought crossed my mind. What if I stopped trying to save everyone? At breakfast, my brother came flying in like a hurricane, full of energy and ideas. He suggested we go see the volcano, then the pineapple farm, maybe even try kayaking. I nodded. Let him plan. Let him take the reins. I wasn't going to be the director of this family circus anymore. My parents looked drained, not physically, emotionally. Mom tried to pretend everything was fine, but I caught her glancing at her phone more than once. Dad said very little, eating slowly, thoughtfully. It was obvious. Conversations with Bonnie were still happening. I didn't ask. It wasn't my business anymore. After breakfast, I went to the beach alone. I took a notebook and a pen. I wanted to leave something behind, something personal, not for Instagram, not for the family, just for me. I started writing, at first messy, scattered, then line by line. It wasn't a plan or a to-do list or goals for the year. It was thoughts about how easy it is to lose yourself when you're always living for others, how dangerous it is to mistake compliance for kindness, how painful it is when your loved ones ignore your boundaries, and how terrifying it is to finally start setting them. I wrote until the sun climbed high. Then I just lay back on the sand and closed my eyes. I wasn't bored. I wasn't upset. For the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. That evening, we went out to dinner as a family. My brother was cracking jokes. Dad seemed relaxed. Mom even laughed. I had no idea what kind of conversations they'd had with Bonnie that day. But no one brought her up. It felt like an unspoken agreement. If we don't talk about her, it doesn't hurt. And right in the middle of that calm, when everything was smooth, peaceful, almost nice, Mom suddenly said, "She sent a photo. She's doing fine. She's at a cafe with a friend." I nodded. What else was I supposed to say? Be happy for her? Doubt it? Fact check it? My brother quietly said, "At least she's not on the street." Dad said nothing. Dinner went on, but something had shifted. As if we had allowed Bonnie back in, without her even being there. Back in the room, I opened the notebook again. I wrote a single line. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you unlock when someone earns the right to come in. I didn't know what would happen next, whether there would be reconciliation, a conversation, a turning point. But I did know one thing. I was never going back to my old role. This vacation had taught me a lot. And one of the biggest lessons? I have the right to be the main character in my own life, not just a background actor in someone else's drama. When we came back from Hawaii, I naively believed that the whole saga with Brianna was finally behind us. I wanted to believe that the trip had become a wake-up call, not just for her, but for the entire family. Unfortunately, I was wrong. The real drama was just beginning. The first red flag appeared when I found out Brianna had started spending nights at our parents' place again. At first, she would just stop by for dinner, supposedly keeping up a family tradition. My mom didn't see anything wrong with it. She just misses home. It's nice that we're close as a family. But I knew my sister. If she was doing something, she had a reason. And more often than not, it wasn't a good one. Within a month, it became obvious that she simply wasn't going back to her rented apartment. The room our parents had helped her get stood empty. Neighbors said they hadn't seen her in weeks. The landlord had been trying to reach her, threatening eviction. Turned out, she hadn't paid a single cent since moving in. All that time, she'd been couch surfing, staying with friends, crashing at our parents', spinning a different sob story for everyone. They betrayed me. They kicked me out. I'm depressed. As usual, Mom was torn. She couldn't stand seeing her daughter sleeping on a couch or showing up with empty pockets. I understood that. She's a mother after all. But eventually, even she had enough. She tried to talk to Brianna, calmly, without judgment. Just asked why she hadn't paid rent. Brianna's answer was a masterpiece. I bought shoes for my new job. Shoes. Worth 3 months' rent. This time, Dad didn't hold back. Bri, it's time to grow up. You don't live here anymore. And we're not your bank. Of course, Brianna went into her usual routine. Tears, guilt trips, empty promises. But no one bought it. For the first time in years, our parents showed real backbone. They told her the door wouldn't open next time she showed up unannounced. If she wanted to rebuild the relationship, she'd have to prove she could take responsibility. That's when she moved on to our brother. She called him up, whining about how everyone had abandoned her. When that didn't work, she switched tactics. Ask your rich brother for money and pass it to me. I'd be too humiliated to ask him myself. Naturally, our brother refused, and then he got an earful. He was a traitor, a suck-up, following me around like a free slice of pizza. I could have gotten angry. I could have reacted. But I was just tired. Tired of being the villain in her fantasy narrative. Her manipulation didn't get to me anymore. I could see my parents slowly, painfully beginning to wake up too. They were tired too. And when Brianna showed up at the door one evening, backpack slung over her shoulder, fake smile plastered on her face, hoping someone would let her in, they didn't. She cried outside, rang the bell, texted, called our names. But no one answered. I knew Mom was sitting in the bedroom, her hands over her face, and Dad just stood at the window. It wasn't cruelty. It was the only way to keep our family from falling apart. It had been a few weeks since the night Brianna stood outside our parents' house, ringing the bell like a child locked out after curfew. I thought that would be the final straw, that she'd finally get it. But Brianna always had one more move, one last manipulation hidden up her sleeve. She stopped contacting us for a while. No texts, no dramatic voicemails, nothing. And for a brief moment, we all let out a collective breath. I remember thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe she's finally figuring things out. I even felt a weird sense of relief, like I could finally focus on my life without the constant tension of whatever Brianna would do next. Then came the message. Not to me, to my mother. A photo, actually. It was a picture of Brianna sitting on a bench at a bus station, her suitcase next to her, and a caption, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. Just know I still love you, even if you've all given up on me." Mom showed it to me with trembling hands, her voice barely above a whisper. She's homeless. She's out there on her own. It felt like being punched in the gut, not because I believed the performance, but because my mom did. Even after everything, she still wanted to believe Brianna was just a hurt little girl trying to find her way. Dad, to his credit, was less emotionally swayed. "This is emotional blackmail," he said firmly. "She wants us to panic and beg her to come home. We've done that. It never worked." But Mom was slipping. I saw it in her eyes. She started leaving out food again, just in case Brianna happened to stop by. She kept her phone volume up all night, just in case she calls. And that's when Brianna struck again. One afternoon, while our parents were out, she snuck into the house. She still had an old key. No one had changed the locks, something that seemed obvious in hindsight, but at the time, no one believed she'd stoop that low. She let herself in, took food from the fridge, showered, and apparently even did a load of laundry. When Mom and Dad came home, she was sitting on the couch watching TV like nothing had happened. They were stunned. She greeted them with a cheery, Hi, guys. Just needed a place to recharge. What followed was one of the ugliest arguments I've ever witnessed. Dad was furious. Mom was crying. Brianna kept spinning everything. Why are you attacking me? I'm your daughter. I just needed help. Dad didn't back down. He told her flat out. If she didn't leave, they'd call the police. For a moment, I thought she might try to fight it. But instead, she started crying again, packed up her things, and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. That night, the locks were finally changed. For the next few days, our family was emotionally wrecked. Mom barely spoke. Dad kept checking the locks twice before bed. I was the only one who seemed to feel some level of closure. I hated how it happened, but I knew it needed to happen. We'd let her back in too many times. She had no intention of changing because we'd never forced her to. But then something unexpected happened. A week later, I got a message from Brianna. It wasn't angry. It wasn't manipulative. It was quiet. Hey, I get it now. You were right. I messed up. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. No emoji, no guilt trip, just those words. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know if it was real. Was this a turning point or just another setup? Time would tell. 2 months passed. 2 quiet, surreal months. For the first time in years, my family had peace. No slammed doors, no guilt trips, no late-night phone calls filled with screaming or tears. Just quiet. It was almost eerie how quickly we adapted. My parents slowly relaxed like their muscles were finally unclenching after a decade-long tension. We didn't hear from Brianna again. No texts, no surprise visits. She disappeared as quickly as she'd re-entered our lives. A small part of me wondered if she was actually doing what she claimed in that last message, taking responsibility. But after a lifetime of false starts, I wasn't holding my breath. And then, out of nowhere, she popped up on social media. A new profile, new photos. She looked different. Still herself, but stripped down. Natural hair, no filters, no branded outfits. Her captions were strange, though, almost overly positive. Stuff like, sometimes hitting bottom is the best way to learn how to climb. I didn't follow her, just lurked, like any good sibling. Mom did reach out once. She sent a short message. Hope you're doing okay. We love you. No reply, and so we waited. Another month later, Brianna emailed Dad. Not a call, not a dramatic voicemail, just a clean, formal email. She had gotten a job, a steady one. Not glamorous, but consistent. She was in a small shared apartment. She had started therapy. The email wasn't long, but it was the most grounded thing I'd seen from her in years. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask to come home. She just wanted to let him know that she was trying, that she understood the damage she'd done, that she was finally tired of being the storm and wanted to learn how to rebuild. Dad didn't respond right away. He let it sit for days. He showed it to Mom, who cried quietly in the kitchen and said, I think she means it this time. I wasn't so sure. But Dad, in his quiet way, replied with a simple message. I'm proud of you for trying. Keep going. We'll be here when you're ready to talk. That's it. No invitations, no expectations. Just a crack in the door. Since then, things have stayed stable. Brianna hasn't tried to move back in. She hasn't asked for anything. She posts less, but when she does, it's usually something calm. Books, cooking, small day trips. Real life stuff. Stuff that doesn't look curated for attention. And I think maybe that's the start of something. I won't pretend we're all healed. I still feel a knot in my chest when her name shows up on my phone. I still think about all the times she crossed the line and how long we let her do it. But I also think about how hard it must be to finally look at yourself honestly and not run from what you see. Maybe this isn't redemption. Maybe it's just the first honest step she's ever taken. And maybe that's enough for now. As for me, I'm still working, still building my own life. My brother and I talk more now, closer than ever, honestly. My parents are softer with each other, like they've put down a weight they didn't realize they were carrying for years. And Brianna, she's still out there. Not the golden child anymore. Not the villain either. Just a woman learning how to grow up a little late. And I guess that's okay.